Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10. Cleopatra and the Headless King. An incredibly rare discovery was made in Taposiris Magna in Egypt, and it could hint at the possible location of Cleopatra's legendary tomb. The gigantic headless statue of a mysterious Greek king was uncovered in the ruins of an Egyptian temple. Excavation leaders say the statue is potential evidence that the temple was once the resting place of both Queen Cleopatra and her lover, Mark Antony. The Temple of Taposiris Magna is not on any major tourist map. It's located 28 miles from Alexandria, far from the pyramids and far from other major archaeological sites. For years, researchers have been poring over this temple, trying to uncover its ancient secrets. And now they have found a statue, 6 feet of solid black granite with no head. Researchers believe the statue is of King Ptolemy IV because his name was found near its base. According to National Geographic, he was one of the original Greek rulers who took over Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. He was king between 221 and 204 BC. This was an exciting discovery because nobody has ever been able to find the tomb of Cleopatra, the last ruler of ancient Egypt. She and her Roman lover died after they were defeated by Caesar Augustus in 30 BC, but neither of their bodies have ever been recovered. Taposiris Magna was an extremely busy temple around the time that Cleopatra died. Archaeologists have already found over 500 skeletons and 20 tombs here. It was a major place for burying important people. It could be that Cleopatra was discreetly buried in a crypt here, and that her mummy is still waiting to be found. Number 9. Rare Roman statues. Archaeologists in England were excavating what they believed to be a tower from the days of the Anglo-Saxons when they came across 3 very rare statues. These statues are Roman, suggesting that the entire dig site was also Roman. The archaeologists came across 2 busts of a head and a torso, and the third bust was just a head. Oddly enough, the 3 statues make up a small family as they were modeled after an adult female, an adult male, and a child. However, nobody has the slightest clue who in the world these people were. The team now believes the mysterious archaeological site was originally used as a graveyard in the Bronze Age. It then turned into a mausoleum after the Romans invaded Britain in 43 AD. Then, over 1,000 years later, in 1080 AD, it became a Norman church. These statues are now some of the rarest Roman artifacts ever found in the country, and the discovery was all thanks to an infrastructure project. Britain is in the middle of creating the HS2, a new railway system, and they've been digging up all kinds of ancient artifacts. Shortly before the Roman heads were found, the project revealed roughly 3,000 burials underneath an ancient Norman church. Every single corpse had to be moved and reburied to make room for the railway. Number 8. Military Headquarters. Buried underneath a perfectly ordinary cornfield in Serbia, archaeologists uncovered the remains of an ancient Roman military headquarters. It's a very rare discovery, especially given its random location. Archaeologists revealed what used to be known as a principium, the headquarters of a Roman legion. There are over 100 similar bases found across the ancient territory of the Roman Empire. However, archaeologist Miomir Korak says almost all of them are buried under modern cities. Finding one totally in the open like this is a huge opportunity to learn more about the Roman military. The compound was discovered near the capital of Belgrade, yet it was hidden a full 3 feet underneath the surface. This place had once been a massive military installation, but because of the shifting soils and rains from over the centuries, it was buried almost as deep as a modern grave. Archaeologists identified 40 rooms, each complete with a heated wall for comfort in the winter. They also found a treasury, parade grounds, and a shrine. In one of the rooms, the experts found a stash of silver coins. It's believed the coins were lost during an invasion. The headquarters itself belonged to the 7th Claudia Legion, a major division of the Roman forces, active between the 2nd and 5th centuries AD. Unfortunately, archaeologists have only uncovered about 4% of the site so far, but that 4% is already bigger than Central Park in New York. Number 7. The First English. Archaeologists recently made a shocking discovery after they analyzed DNA from skeletons excavated across England. Researchers believe they have finally uncovered the very first groups of people who officially defined themselves as English. Researchers found that the first true English people likely descended from German, Danish, and Dutch people. They migrated to England from Europe, and over time became identified as English. What the team also found was that this group of early English people had a genetic connection to West Africa. What this seems to suggest is that in the Middle Ages, England was a diverse and complex civilization. This was a shocking discovery for many different reasons. It's very rare to get a glimpse at the ancient bloodlines of England, which was once the largest empire in the entire world. Only a century ago, in 1922, the British Empire was the biggest and most powerful empire the world had ever seen, with its territories taking up a quarter of the Earth's land. What we see thanks to the DNA of these 460 skeletons that were buried between 200 and 1300 AD is that the English did not live in small elite groups. The idea that medieval Englishmen lived in quiet villages may be entirely wrong. Many skeletons showed 33% DNA from West African ancestors. The point is that the first groups of English-speaking people in Britain were a mix of groups from Africa to the lands of the Vikings. Number 6. Secrets of the Stone Tablet. Archaeological is a mysterious site from the 6th century that was built by the Etruscans, the enigmatic civilization that predates the Romans in Italy. At this site, which is in modern Tuscany, archaeologists uncovered a mysterious stone slab known as a stele. It's over 2,500 years old, and it weighs about 500 pounds. The slab was inscribed in a language that hasn't been used in almost 3 millennia. Gregory Warden from the Southern Methodist University in Dallas believes the discovery of the stone slab is the most important Etruscan find in decades. He believes the huge slab of stone will provide invaluable information about the ancient sacred practices of the Etruscans. It might even help to decode their forgotten language. Right now, archaeologists are busy trying to decipher the inscription. So far, they have only revealed its first secret. They identified the engraved name of a fertility goddess called Uni. She was likely worshipped starting around 700 BC in northern and eastern Italy. Uni would have only fallen out of favor around 100 BC when the Etruscans were absorbed by the Roman Republic. Sadly, that's all we know at the moment. There are over 120 characters left on the stone slab, currently the longest Etruscan text known to science. Researchers are still struggling to decipher what the stone says, character by character. Number 5. Ancient Graffiti. On the wall of the great King David's tomb on Mount Zion in Israel, some graffiti has been found. The ancient graffiti bears the name of Knight Adrian von Bubenberg. It was discovered as part of the Israeli Antiquity Authority's research project to document the inscriptions of pilgrims left at the holy site throughout the Middle Ages. The team discovered 40 inscriptions belonging to Muslim and Christian pilgrims, many of them written in different languages. The tomb of King David, the same David from the Bible who fought against Goliath, has been a place of pilgrimage for centuries. During the Middle Ages, people would carve their names into the wall of the tomb, just like someone might carve their name onto a piece of Stonehenge today if given the chance. It was a way to leave a piece of themselves inside the tomb, and for Adrian von Bubenberg, it really worked. Historical records show he was born in 1424 in Switzerland and grew to be a national hero. He participated in military conquests across Europe, fought at the Battle of Morat, and was in the Burgundian Wars. Before he died in 1479, the knight made his pilgrimage to Jerusalem. He saw the tomb of David with his own eyes and then scratched his name on the wall to let everyone know he was there. Number 4. Rare Roman Mosaic. An extremely rare mosaic from the Roman era was recently found during the excavation of a building in Syria. It's been described as the most important archaeological discovery since this Syrian conflict began over a decade ago. The mosaic was uncovered in the town of Rastan, and it's absolutely huge. The artwork is 1,300 square feet and shows a rare portrayal of Amazonian warriors, a favorite from Roman mythology. The Amazonians were likely inspired by the legendary Scythian female warriors of the Eurasian steppes. They lived through Greek mythology, Roman mythology, and are still popular today. Wonder Woman, the comic book character, is also based on Amazonian warrior women. The huge mosaic also shows scenes from the legendary Trojan War as described by Homer, as well as other fantastic scenes. The mosaic shows Hercules slaying Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons. It also shows Neptune, the Roman god of the sea, and his 40 mistresses. Unfortunately, archaeologists aren't sure what the building originally was. It may have been a public bathhouse, but nobody knows for sure. The mysterious building dates back to the 4th century AD, when Syria was under Roman rule. This may have been the floor that Romans walked upon as they traveled back and forth from the public baths. Number 3. Colonial Skeletons. Archaeologists in Peru recently uncovered the terrifying remains of 3 kids and 5 adults. These skeletons were found at a colonial-era cemetery in Lima, the modern capital of Peru. It came as a huge shock because shortly before, archaeologists found 500-year-old Spanish corpses riddled with syphilis at a different colonial graveyard in Lima. To understand these discoveries, we need to go back to the founding of the city. Lima was officially founded in 1535 by Francisco Pizarro, only 3 years after the first conquistadors arrived in Peru. It became the Spanish capital, and to this day, it's the capital of the nation. But before that, the Lima culture and the Ixma people lived in the region for 2,000 years. When the Spanish showed up, the place was covered in stone temples, great plazas, and many beautiful cultural sites. Sadly, most of them were destroyed, and many of them were built over by churches and Spanish buildings, but some of them are preserved within the Maranga Archaeological Complex. It was within this complex where the archaeologists discovered the 8 colonial skeletons. These human remains are a major discovery because they were likely part of a forced mass conversion of indigenous locals to Catholicism. The Spanish brutally forced the native people to convert to their religion after invading their home. One of these skeletons was found with a wooden cross in their hand. All 8 of them were buried facing east to west, which was the typical Christian way of being buried. This was because Catholics believed Christ will come from the east when he returns, and that the remains of Christians will want to witness the second coming for themselves from their graves. Number 2. The Minatogawa Man. At the Minatogawa limestone quarry in Japan, located on the southern tip of Okinawa, some of the oldest prehistoric people in the country were discovered. The human remains were found by local amateur archaeologist Seiho Oyama. He noticed there were fossilized bone fragments trapped within building blocks that he purchased from the quarry. Between 1968 and 1974, a total of 4 skeletons were unearthed there. They date between 30,000 and 20,000 years old, and are currently among the oldest hominids ever identified in Japan. They are known collectively as the Minatogawa specimens. When it comes to prehistoric hominids, these skeletons are as rare as you can get. No additional specimens have ever been found, making these ones entirely unique. So, what do we know about these ancient Japanese ancestors? These skeletons likely belong to a forgotten prehistoric population that lived on the island of Okinawa. They were noted to be abnormally short, about 4 feet 6 inches tall. They were also found to be distinctly different from the prehistoric Jomon people who lived across Japan from 16,000 to 2,000 years ago. The Jomon are considered the predecessors of modern Japanese people. What this means is that the Jomon likely migrated here from somewhere else. They possibly came from East Asia, invaded Japan, and conquered the more primitive hominids living on the island. It was like modern humans moving into Europe and destroying the Neanderthals. Number 1. Soldiers' Remains. 245 years ago, there was an epic battle fought at the Red Bank Battlefield Park in New Jersey. It was one of the greatest victories of the American Revolution. It happened on October 22, 1777. American soldiers battling for their independence fought against Hessian soldiers who were fighting on behalf of the British Crown. The Hessians had about 2,000 men, but the Americans only had 500 soldiers. By the time the battle was finished, 377 Hessians had died, and only 14 Americans were killed. It was a major upset, and the victory kept the British in the north. The inferior colonial army had survived. Later that year, the fort at Red Bank was abandoned and subsequently destroyed. However, in 2022, archaeologists from Rowan University decided to start digging. The biggest find at the site was a 1766 King George III gold guinea, although there were several bones that were discovered as well. Extremely rare skeletal remains of 13 human beings were found on the grounds of the battlefield. While not yet confirmed, researchers believe the bones belonged to Hessian soldiers who had spent almost 250 years buried 4 feet under the earth. The archaeologists accidentally broke into a mass grave, complete with femurs, teeth, and ghoulish skulls. Thanks for watching! Which of these rare archaeological discoveries did you find the most fascinating? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!